On today's episode of Watch JR, we are back with my new to me 1995 Ford Mustang Cobra. It was probably the cheapest Cobra sale in the US, and today we're gonna figure out everything that's wrong with it. What is going on, guys? I am Watch JR, and like I said, today we are back with the Mustang and we get to figure out what is going on with this thing. What do we need to do to make it roadworthy, and what do we need to do to make it look nice again? And maybe we'll even get started on a little bit of it. So we're gonna do a complete inspection. It'll be the first car that I ever get to put up on the new lifts, and we'll just see what's going on with it. I'm excited, but I'm really excited to use the new shop and have a car on the lift. So let's get some stuff moved around. The electricians were here last night. You can see they finished up putting the conduit in, powering up the lifts, putting these outlets on the lifts on their own breaker in case I need some like big loads on the lifts. I don't think we ever will, but you know, the AC machine usually gets plugged in on the lift. So let me clean a few things up and get the scissor lift out of the way, and we'll pull the Mustang over there in the corner and get it up in the air. All right, first things first, we need to secure this conduit to the lifts. And to do that, we actually had these drilled and tapped before. So we've got some 1/4-20 bolts in there that are gonna hold on our clamps there for the EMT. And for those of you saying this looks unfinished because there's a bunch of wire up there, you're right, it is unfinished. We decided to put more conduit out of that junction box and put a gigantic, nearly 10-foot fan in the middle of the shop. So all of that extra wire was pulled in, and there's enough up there to reach all the way up to the center and over to where I'm gonna put the fan. So that's all staying for now, and very shortly it'll all be wrapped up and nice and clean. We've got our clamps up on the lift posts. That is much better. And now I'm gonna move over to the other one and put the other set of clamps on, and we should be ready to use our lifts.
Come on, little naked snag.
So yesterday we walked around this thing, we took a pretty good look at it, and we have some ideas of some things that need fixed. Obviously the very top of the to-do list is tires all the way around. You guys saw the tires are completely separating. They are so dry rotted that there are cracks running all the way around the entire tire. And not just the big one, it's all micro cracking too, and all the way into the tread blocks. So these do have a date code on them of the 41st week of 2008. Pretty crazy. Most tires hold up better than that over time. I assume these were completely flat and sitting on the ground. There's some other obvious ones too that we noted yesterday, like these windows don't roll down at all. What on earth could be wrong with those? They're power. The power top does not power. The power seat, well, the switch in the front of it is broken. The seat itself, it needs a little reconditioning. This loop here could be replaced, which is why I couldn't get to my seatbelt yesterday. Look at that, problem solving right there. We need to investigate what's going on with the steering wheel. The cassette player does not work. The CD player wasn't working, but we got that working after playing with it for a bit. And a lot of the trim needs re-dyed. So some of this stuff doesn't matter at all. It's strictly cosmetic. And some of this stuff does matter, like the tires and possibly that low coolant light. The car has fresh oil in it, like I mentioned yesterday. Shout out to Ryan for that. The battery terminals needed replaced. We noticed that yesterday, but let's get this thing up in the air and figure out how terrible it is underneath before we keep going after the little cosmetic things. Because we know from driving it for the 5 minutes it took to get here, it is hurting. It is very much hurting. So first car we're gonna lift in the new shop. Let's see if the lifts work first. Our main thing here is testing the lifts. This is what working on cars in luxury is like, isn't it? I had nearly forgotten how great it is to have a lift. All right, we're underneath the back of this thing. Let's work from the back forward. We noticed this yesterday too because it was horrible. Just taking a quick peek under the car told me immediately that there was a huge leak coming out of the seal there on the diff cover. That should be a fun and easy fix. I'm not too worried about that. The shocks, you can see that there used to be oil up there, and I think it just got so bad that the oil has even kind of cleaned itself up. Shock bushings cracked, these diff locating bushings there. Live axle though. the reason these things go sideways at every car show. Anyway, another shock that clearly is blown, so we're gonna need to order a set of shocks. Everything looks okay. This is all surface rust. It's not rotted through or anything on the brake lines, which that would be a little more troubling. What are these mufflers? Oh, they are Flowmasters. Check it out. Flowmaster. No model number. Anybody know what that is? I think it's a 40. But this car sounds good. Oh, look at that. The exhaust mount, completely gone. That's interesting. On both sides ripped apart, which is funny because the back of the exhaust is still holding together there. That exhaust hanger is failing. It's about to rip apart. I mean, it's got 200,000 miles on it. We knew that going into this. There is baling wire, or what is this? It actually looks like barbed wire fence. It's got that double twist in it, but there's no barbs. What on earth? That's what's holding the exhaust up. I bet that, well, it's not the leak. You'd see some black if it was the leak. So there's an exhaust leak, but it's not that. Oh, that's the speed sensor. I thought it was unplugged, but it was one of the old ones where it could be cable, could be electronic, and the electronic part is plugged in. Probably just a transmission they threw in everything. Transmission mount looks okay. Looks okay. Oh, an X-pipe. I bet the X-pipe is helping out the sound a lot. This thing is filthy, just covered in oil. Is it the rear main? Look at all the oil, guys. It's completely shiny. I mean, the front main is leaking, but not nearly as much as the back of this. Like, you can see where the front main leak ends. Ooh, this oil cooler line there, just leaking like crazy. That could be most of our leak right there. That's really bad. Oil all over the rack. Oil on everything. Is this the old air pump? It looks like it. Those front shocks have to be bad. They've got to be bad, guys. I mean, it looks like it's been wet up there just so long ago that it's all cleaned itself back off because it has like an even coating of rust coming down the shock. Sway bar links look like they were replaced and they're kind of okay. I wouldn't call them squishy. You can push in with your finger now and that's about it. Got oil all over the place here. That shock's definitely completely gone. There's oil everywhere from that shock. we're gonna have a lot to tackle to bring this car back to life. And this rear main, oh, it's leaking at the plug, the drain plug there. Why is the check engine light on and why is there an exhaust leak? These are the questions we need answered. Look at these weird old narrow band O2 sensors. They're smaller than my flashlight. The old Cobra engine is so filthy, I can't see an exhaust leak on the head. Not a thing. So I did talk to Ryan and he said the radiator was completely full and he thinks there's a level sensor in this tank right here. This looks like the overflow tank. You can tell there's antifreeze underneath it there. And he thinks that this is low and that's why the low coolant light's on. But look at that. The radiator's wet right in there. And that's green. The camera doesn't want to focus on it, but that's green. So it could be a bad radiator as well. We might have to do some swapping. It might not just be a level sender. It might need a radiator. Brakes, they're discolored, but you know, I think that might clean up with driving. There's not much of a lip on there. They sure are rusted, but you know, like he said, it's been sitting for 3 years. It'd be nice to go put a few miles on it. There's still plenty of brake pad in there. I don't know if you guys can see that, but they look great. Every time I see these tires, I'm just mind blown by how absolutely terrible they are. Filthy. You guys know this thing has a clean Carfax, 200,000 miles, clean Carfax, great looking wheels, but it has just been driven, absolutely driven. It looks like it had one of the hardest lives. It's a Cobra. Everybody probably had fun with it. I think I found our exhaust leak. You guys see how dark it is right around that bolt back there on the header? There, focus for you. I know it's going in and out, but there's a lot of black. It's gotta be that back, maybe the back bolt broke or backed off there. Kind of typical of LS's. I don't really know that it happens that often on Fords, but this one has a problem, and just all of this oil. All of this oil. It's everywhere. She's filthy. We need to get this thing in a car wash that has an underbody spray and do a lot of cleaning. Let's put together a quick list over here on my workbench because the smart washer died, guys. my CRC smart washer, one of my favorite things, you know, to use to clean up all kinds of parts, which we're gonna need, especially for this job. It broke. And we thought it was a bad heating element because it stopped heating. And then Eric and I tore it down. It turns out I had a blown fuse, which is why I had those fuses over here during the torque wrench video. I brought a whole case of them. I need to get in here, pull that fuse back out, swap it, and see if it heats again, because the solution that goes in here has to stay at like 80 degrees all the time or the microbes die and it doesn't wash as well. List time, let's go. 95 Cobra. And in order of importance, we need tires, shocks, front mains on the list, rear, fix, exhaust, diff seal, radiator, but with a question mark, suspension. Does that sound about right to you guys? We've got a very expensive list so far. Another interesting thing under here is the air pump. So air pumps, obviously long gone. No one needs air injection anymore to warm up the cats. And I don't know if you guys noticed, this thing didn't have cats. I assume the X pipe replaced where the cats maybe were on this thing. And now it has this air pump line that runs back here and is literally just blowing air into the exhaust. So this would be much better served by not having that air pump in there and maybe even having a different bracket that eliminates that altogether, because the problem with the air pumps are eventually the bearings fail, especially at 200,000 miles, and then this thing throws your serpentine belt and you're stranded on the side of the road because the pump that's not doing anything broke. So that one could go on the list with a question mark, something we should probably fix. I keep seeing this drip by the antifreeze. Did it drip antifreeze? Let's go take a quick look on the floor. It did! There's our leaks from last night. We got a couple drips of antifreeze and that many drips of oil. Just, they're small, but that's not great. It's a lot of miles, guys. It's a lot of miles on a sports car. So honestly, rear diff's probably gonna go almost all the way up on my list. The fuel filter's been changed. It's got a date on it. So somebody, you know, somebody cared. They wrote on it 11 something, I can't tell. But if that's 2011, it's time for a fuel filter. Trans output shaft seal, that needs to go on the list. And I just had one more important thing. The important thing is we're gonna have to drop the entire drivetrain out of this car. Rear diff seal, that one goes after tires and shocks. That one is important. I don't want it sitting back there leaking. Fixing the leaks, that's the name of the game, right? Fixing the leaks. Figure out why exhaust suspended from baling wire. I think that one's implied. These bushings look okay, but really I think all the suspension's gotta come out of this car. All the suspension, Look at that, guys. Is that a wheel hop damper for the live axle? Is that what it's supposed to do? There's oil all over like it blew itself apart. I have never seen this before. And it's got a destroyed bushing on it. Wow. All right, Mustang guys, here's your chance. I have no clue what that is, and it's on both sides. There's the other one right there. And of course, its bushing is completely rotten. I mean, it's right in the spray off of the tire too, so I bet that has a tough time lasting long at all. Well, that's most of it. Let's check our tie rod ends and just give everything a little wiggle here to see how the rest of the suspension is, because I assume it's all kind of tired, and then we'll go from there. Do these wheels look like repops to you guys? They are finished so nicely, and they almost look like they were machined and then powder coated, because they've got like, it's like orange peel. Really interesting. I don't know if they've been fixed. The material looks straight. They could just be repops. All right. I'm getting some wiggle, but the rack's moving too. The tie rod bushings actually did look okay, so. Nothing. I bought the tool for this. I bought the snap-on. It's a micrometer that magnetizes onto the control arm, and then you can actually put the feeler out onto the wheel and see what's going on, if there's any movement. These tires are gone. There's not even air in them. I could squeeze the tire. Oil cooler lines, that's the one thing I forgot. And even though Ryan changed the oil yesterday, he did not change the filter. Bonus though, the filter's a Wix. I'll give it some credit there. So, you know, it was just sitting. It might not have had many miles on it since the last oil change. He just threw some oil in it that he had, and we'll change it again, and we'll put fresh filter. Honestly, I think the engine's coming out. I think we gotta pull it because we need to reseal everything and then put it all back together. I don't wanna do this. This does not sound like a fun job in any way, but this is a fun car. and it'd be really cool if it didn't leak at all. That third brake light could go on the list, and we also know that this bulb is burnt out, and we need to fix the remote key fob. It needs batteries, and we should really just replace the key fob and buy 2 of them, because I only have 1, but I do have 2 keys. So I should add key fobs to the list because they're 20 bucks for 2 usually, and that's an easy fix and it's a lot of fun. Of course, we've already figured out a huge list of what's wrong with this car, but let's not forget the most important thing. Ford solved this on the front of the car by not putting them on, but we need lift struts. Couple struts for the trunk, and that'll keep it from randomly falling down on your head while you're in there. And a trunk liner, that should be on the list as well. Because if we had a trunk liner, the carpet would sit flush and it would look like a pretty normal car, but it's all caved in and it looks ruined because the trunk liner collapsed. That old cardboard corky stuff. Under the hood, like we mentioned yesterday, we're definitely gonna need some battery terminals because these are all chewed up. I mean, they work, but they're loose, and it's just time to replace those, maybe recrimp the battery wires right there, cut out that random zip tie. There's just a lot to do. Maybe we'll figure out the security system. I don't know, if that factory remote works, I'm definitely not gonna put a security system in it. I'm sure the brake fluid's gonna need bled. The rest of this doesn't look too bad up top, but the water pump, you guys can see, there is some corrosion around that, so it might be time to put a water pump on it too. And oil cap's missing, even though it's just the ratchet that's missing, not the actual cap. The cap is probably stuck in there. We know the AC works, the heat works. Kind of, you know, everything works under the hood. It's just not doing well. So a tune-up is in order. That's what we're gonna do under the hood, a tune-up. And this must be the low coolant. Oh, wow, that is loose. We're gonna have to figure that out. That's gotta be the low coolant sensor though, on that tank. So maybe a radiator, maybe a tank, and maybe a sensor. The top part of the engine, not the worst. The bottom part of the engine, not doing great. We also can't forget the headlights that for some reason have maybe a baby wipe and also some hot glue holding them on. At least I'll see what I can do there. I probably don't want to pull the bumper, do any body work, but I would like to know why these are held in by paper or baby wipes or whatever's going on there. Or maybe those glass wipes we found inside the car. So there you have it, everything that's wrong with my cheap 95 Ford Mustang Cobra. A huge list that's gonna cost thousands of dollars to fix, so when we're done with it, I expect we'll have around 6,000 in it, but it's probably worth around 6,000 if it's actually nice and doesn't make any clunks and runs perfectly and the check engine light's off. And who knows how much more we're gonna find as we get into this, but I'm sure we'll get it all sorted out. And of course we'll do plugs, wires, all the usual maintenance stuff while we're getting it done. And after that, it should run perfectly and it should be, well, I can't wait to go drive this thing because it's one of those high school cars, but this would have been a holy grail high school car. Anyway, that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to head on over to shop.watchjericho.com for cool shirts just like this. And please like, share, subscribe, do whatever you want to do, and I will talk to you next time. Now, we might have got our Cobra inspection done, but we have more work to do here today. And that work is getting the garage door on the house, which is an antique, to work. So we have here the Control 4 C4Z2IO. So this is Zigbee 2IO, get it? It's super simple. And it's got 2 infrared emitters right there under that USB port. You can use to control TVs, set-top boxes, whatever you want. And it has actual physical relays in it that can also control whatever you want. It's got up to 2 relays, or they can also be contact closures and a bunch of other stuff. You can use them for statuses, you can use them for outputs. Pretty cool, this tiny little box. What we're gonna do is go over to the house, mount this on the garage door opener, hook it up, and I actually already have it all programmed. So we should be able to have a remote for that garage door opener that's like from the 70s. It is an absolute antique. It had the most antique radio system you've ever seen when I bought the house. I cut all that out and threw it away because we didn't have remotes for it. And of course it's very insecure. This is highly secure and it'll be a direct contact closure to run the opener. Here's something we haven't seen in a while, my Maserati. You know, I absolutely love this car. So let's get it started up and get it out of the garage. Hasn't run in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I know the Maserati's loud, but it needs to idle for a while and charge back up, get ready to live again. But this is our prehistoric opener right here. It's a Genie from who knows when. I don't see a nameplate on it other than Genie on the front of it. This thing is so old, the chain itself triggers this limit switch that slides back and forth, and that's what turns on and off the opener when it hits the up and down, its limits. So you adjust them by literally like screwing this back and forth until this thing turns on and off at the right time. It's really funny. There, you see the little straight bit screw right there? That's how you adjust this opener. Super old school. What we're gonna do is just zip tie the Z2IO up here onto the bracket, run the wires down to the contacts, and plug it in. Should be ready to go right after that. It's a Model 200. Does anyone know what vintage that is? I'm sure the internet will tell us. And of course, we've got the Z2IO hooked up across our contacts. That's all it takes. And now let's mount it up here with a couple zip ties and plug it in. All right, we got everything mounted up. I'm not even gonna cut the zip tie tails because as soon as the new door gets here, I'm replacing that opener. So it's very temporary. It's just, why not add a little bit of modern technology that I already had, thanks to Jared, who sent this with all the light switches, to this antique opener. So let's see if it works. This is untested, guys. Garage door. Hey! Look at that! Let's go ahead and make sure it runs both ways, test it out a lot. Sure looks good. That is one old garage door. All right, we're done. You guys want to see another cool house update? I know I'm taking a break from the house. I'm not going to work on it for a while, especially now that we can work on cars again. The house is going to be kind of an intermittent thing, but you guys know we added this light switch that controls the back porch light. There you go, back porch light, right? I came back, put LEDs in it. They're dimmable, they're insanely bright. These light up the backyard way out so I can always see. It's like security. They're scheduled, all kinds of stuff like that. Auto on, randomized at sunset, auto off, randomized, sunrise, all that good stuff on one of the Control 4 switches. Well, I put another one of those switches in. This is the master bedroom back porch keypad, and this one, when I push this button, turns on the back porch light. And then I push the bottom one, and it turns off the entire back porch no matter what's going on. And then this one, if I double tap it, the exact same one turns on that switch. Push the top button twice and it turns on both switches. And this is all wireless, guys. And then, let's see, one of these is security. It's gonna show the garage door status. And one of these immediately starts playing a music playlist on the back porch speakers. And these are the volume controls for the back porch speakers. So nice. So now I know every room's gonna end up with one of those keypads. You pretty much, if you can control the security system and all the lights and the whole house from the wall anywhere in the house, it's gonna be incredible. And the lights can show statuses for whatever you want. I can even just make one of those buttons the garage door opener right now.